the greatest players in the history of Quebec junior hockey. In 1972, he was the number 2 overall pick in the NHL Draft and appeared to be on the fast track to big league stardom. But his exquisite talent masked a decadent and dangerous personal life that would cause his career to unravel almost before it began. After nearly a decade of uninspired play and long stretches in the minor leagues, Richard re-emerged from a haze of alcohol and drug abuse to stage one of the most unlikely and extraordinary comebacks in NHL history. This is the story of Jacques Richard, his rise, fall, redemption, and his ultimate descent into the fiery pits of a personal hell. Jacques Richard was born in Quebec City, Quebec on October 7, 1952, the oldest of 9 children. He was recognized as a young phenom, and at age 16 he earned a roster spot on the powerful Quebec Remparts of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Richard wasted no time making a big impact as he compiled 126 points in 53 games while logging a hefty 171 penalty minutes in 1969-70. The following season, Richard and teammate Guy Lafleur would lead the Remparts to a 54-7-1 record and a Memorial Cup championship. Lafleur would be chosen number 1 in the 1971 NHL Draft, and scouts considered Richard to be his heir apparent in 1972. Playing on a line with future NHLers André Savard and Guy Chouinard in 71-72, Richard lived up to expectations with a 71-goal, 160-point season to win the Jean Beliveau Trophy as the league's leading scorer. Although he was now being compared favorably with his iconic ex-teammate Lafleur, there were some warning signs regarding Richard's maturity. For example, prior to the draft, Richard's coach Maurice Filion described him as, quote, moody and somebody who has to be pushed. On the other hand, Richard's exceptional skill set was impossible to ignore, said Filion. There's nothing he can't do. He can skate, shoot, make plays, play defensively, play on the power play, and kill penalties. After facing Richard in the 1971 Memorial Cup, Edmonton Oil Kings boss Wild Bill Hunter exclaimed, "Jacques Richard is the most exciting junior player in Canada. He doesn't skate, he flies." Montreal Canadian scout Eric Taylor gushed to a newspaper reporter, quote, "Inside the blue line, there's nobody like him. He's a great skater, and once the crowd gets behind him, there's no stopping him." The 1972 NHL Draft began with 2 expansion teams picking first and second. The New York Islanders chose Billy Harris at number 1, while the NHL's new southern entry, the Atlanta Flames, chose Jacques Richard at number 2. 1972 was a fortuitous time for a hockey player to be drafted, as the World Hockey Association was now on the scene, and a bidding war broke out for Richard's services between the NHL Flames and the hometown WHA Quebec Nordiques. However, on the advice of his good friend Lafleur, Richard rejected the Nordiques' offer and joined boyhood idol and Flames coach Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion in the Peachtree State. Armed with a $100,000 signing bonus and a 6-year, $900,000 contract, the 19-year-old Richard began his first training camp in September 1972, but things quickly went south. Off the ice, fitting in immediately became an issue for the young francophone who needed a translator to do interviews. He was shy, which, according to teammate Phil Meir, stalled his desire to learn the language. Meir told the Hockey News in 1972, "He's afraid somebody will make fun of him. He knows a little English, but he's too bashful to speak it." According to the Hockey News, on the ice things were even worse. In training camp that year, Richard had trouble keeping his head up, playing a much faster style game. Time and time again, his coaches had to drill him to look ahead and instructed the rest of the Flames to tone it down and not hammer him in the middle of the ice. Well, that didn't stop sturdy blue liner and teammate Bob Paradise from clobbering Richard in one scrimmage, leaving the rookie writhing in pain on the ice. According to Richard, "I've been disappointed in myself because I know I can do better than what I've done. I just need to get the confidence in myself." And prior to training camp, Flames GM Cliff Fletcher had called Richard the, quote, "foundation of our franchise." But by mid-season, that enthusiasm had evaporated. Things would hit rock bottom on February 22, 1973, when Richard arrived 20 minutes late for a team meeting and was benched for that evening's game versus Toronto. An angry Richard proceeded to leave the team and return home to Quebec before being coerced by his uncle to return to the Flames. Richard concluded the 1972-73 season with just 13 goals and 18 assists. In 1973-74, Richard was often paired with 1973 number 1 pick Tom Lysiak, and his output doubled to a team-leading 27 goals. Most important, he began showing signs of maturity and didn't require the, quote, daily babysitting from head coach Jeffrey On. But the 1974-75 season would see Richard's production sag to just 17 goals. He had worn out his welcome in Atlanta, and in the off-season, Richard was dispatched to the Buffalo Sabres for a bargain return of Larry Carriere and a number 1 pick. In Buffalo, Richard's career went from disappointing to disastrous. The situation in Buffalo was never going to be easy for Richard. The Sabres' first line, the fabled French Connection, featured Gilbert Perreault, René Robert, and Richard Martin. The Sabres' second line, a potent two-way trio of Don Luce, Craig Ramsay, and Danny Gare, was also intact. Struggling for playing time, Richard potted a mere 12 goals in 75-76. And according to Sabres GM Punch Imlach, managing Richard's drinking and excesses became a full-time job. In one instance, Richard missed playing time after injuring his wrist in a Buffalo bar fight that involved teammate Al Smith. Things would nearly get catastrophically worse in the off-season. On June 1, 1976, Richard was at a Quebec bar with teammate André Deschamps when 2 masked men entered the tavern with submachine guns and opened fire at patrons. When the smoke cleared from the bloody scene, 5 people were wounded, including Deschamps, who was shot in the leg. According to police reports, a bullet cut through Richard's pant leg but did not hit him directly. Richard's fortunes would further crumble in 76-77 when he was busted for intoxicated driving in November and was demoted to the AHL Hershey Bears. He'd spend the next year and a half in Hershey Park, PA. The 78-79 season saw a determined Richard getting another NHL opportunity via the Sabres and new head coach Billy Ingles, but still he could only muster 10 goals in 61 games. When Scotty Bowman took the Sabres' helm in 79-80, he quickly exiled Richard to the AHL Rochester Americans. And on February 13, 1980, Bowman terminated Richard's contract, making him a free agent. At this point, it appeared Richard, now married with an infant daughter, had reached the end of a disappointing career. But one man remembered the fleet-skating, one-time junior prodigy who he once said could, quote, do it all. And that person was his junior coach, and now Quebec Nordiques general manager, Maurice Villian. The Nordiques were concluding their first NHL season and had little hope of reaching the playoffs, so Villian's lifeline to Richard carried very little risk, returning home to the franchise he'd spurned 7 years earlier. Richard raised eyebrows with 15 points in 14 games and earned an invite back for the Nordiques' 1980-81 season. To begin the new season, Nordiques head coach Michel Bergeron placed Richard on a line with Czech defectors Peter and Anton Stasny, and the improbable resurrection of Jacques Richard was underway. After 9 forgettable and often regrettable years, Richard stunned the hockey world with a 52-goal, 103-point season. He was the Nordiques candidate for the Masterton Trophy for the player who best displays the qualities of dedication, perseverance, and sportsmanship. Richard's miraculous career revival was the talk of the NHL. Richard was suddenly a top 10 scorer on one of the most dynamic lines in the league, and at 28, he still had plenty of time to realize his vast potential. His old friend Guy Lafleur noted that Richard could easily be a top 10 player in the league, and his great play extended to the postseason. On April 12, 1981, in Game 4 of a 5-game first-round playoff series with the Philadelphia Flyers, Richard sent the game into overtime with a goal at 17:08 of the third period.
Going in! Great chance of rebound, score! Richard! Uh-oh, watch out! Amazing! I'll tell you, they're going wild in the Coliseum here in Quebec City!
Richard then set up Dale Hunter's OT game winner just 30 seconds into the extra session to send Lake Coliseum fans into a delirium.
Top of Richard. Richard now coming down for Quebec, centering it to Hunter. Hunter gets another chance. Score! He scores! We got a fifth game.
The dramatic goal and assist culminated one of the greatest personal comeback seasons the NHL has ever seen. But April 12, 1981 was also the last great moment of Richard's career, and perhaps his life.
If you've ever thought, damn, clubs are way too expensive, well then you need to know about Tacoma Golf, out at tacomagolf.com.
Richard was a free agent in 1981 and held out for a big pay increase. He had let himself get out of shape in the summer, missed most of training camp, and was replaced by Réal Cloutier on a line with Dale Hunter and Michel Goulet. Overweight and unfocused, Richard slumped to 15 goals and 41 points in 81-82, and he slowed even more the following season, before being demoted to the AHL Fredericton Express. The Nordiques released Richard after the 82-83 season, and at the age of 31, the former phenom was now out of hockey for good. With his playing career over, Richard's hard-partying lifestyle spiraled out of control. In short order, his wife divorced him, he became an owner in a bar that lost money, and he lost $150,000 in a single year as his gambling habit became compulsive. Richard associated with criminals, drank to excess, and snorted cocaine. Richard later told the Calgary Herald, quote, "Cocaine became a habit. I couldn't function without it. I didn't know how much money I spent on it, but everything I had from hockey was gone. And I had big debts. I needed money. So I tried to do something foolish. I wasn't crazy, but I wasn't sure what I was doing either." Richard was referring to his ill-conceived plan to become a drug kingpin. Under the guise of a golf trip, he flew to Colombia in 1989 to buy cocaine. He planned to bring it back and use some and sell the rest. He recalled, "It's like it wasn't me. I lost my head. I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt I had to do it. And then when I got caught, I thought that was the end of the world." Richard attempted to bring 2.8 kilos of cocaine, worth about $1.8 million at the time, in his golf bag. A customs agent noticed that the visibly nervous Richard looked suspicious, so he stopped and searched him at Quebec's Mirabel Airport. Richard was arrested, pled guilty, and sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Guy Lafleur, Michel Bergeron, and old pal and ex-teammate Gilles Lupien visited Richard in prison and tried to encourage him and give him hope. Richard served 14 months in prison and moved to a halfway house in Montreal, away from his criminal friends in Quebec City. By 1991, Richard was broke and depressed. As a convicted felon, without a high school diploma, he struggled to find employment. and despite the efforts of friends and family, Richard was unable to shake his demons as he drifted into obscurity. Richard lamented, "Nobody's running out to give me a job because of what I did. All I can say is I made a mistake. I want a straight life again. I want to work and do the best I can. I'm not asking for too much, just another chance." Unfortunately for Jacques Richard, a straight life proved to be elusive. So, it was no surprise that on October 8, 2002, Jacques Richard would be celebrating his 50th birthday in a Quebec tavern. It would be his last day on Earth. After a night of celebration, Richard sped away on a rain-slicked road just outside of Quebec City. He lost control of his truck, hit a pole, and rolled over 3 times. He was rushed to a hospital where he died. 5 grams of cocaine were found in his truck, and traces of the drug were allegedly found in his system. Bernie Geoffrion summed up Richard's tragic life this way: "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are." He went around with the wrong people. He had everything but self-discipline. Jacques was better than Guy Lafleur and Juniors, but he just wouldn't listen to anybody. It's sad. It's a tragedy to think what might have been. Thanks for watching this episode of PHA TV. Please hit the subscribe button and never miss a classic hockey video.
Got it, one chance, Wolves, great touch, and he scores! Chuck in front of shot, he scores! He scores! He scores! Matthew Tkachuk!
For a little savings, Specialist Miller buys in bulk. For a lot of savings, she bundles her home and auto insurance with USAA. Putting more money back in her pocket? That's what we're made for. Call for a